We've added backend description, frontend description, and project description as our cursor rules. This works fine if you work just with cursor, but in real life, you might want to use other agents as well. For example, OpenAI Codex or Claude Code. In this case, we need to take into account that these rules will not affect those agents, but there is a way to have some rules that will be shared between cursor and those agents. The most popular way to store rules which are shared between different agents is called file agents.md. You can go to agents.md website and read about this file. The idea is that you can create this agent.md file in root of your project and add anything you want to add. You can add front-end documentation, you can add back-end documentation, or you can add project description or whatever you want, any guidelines. Let's create this file, agents.md. So let's say I want to add documentation from cursor rules to my agent.md file. In our case, I can just copy project description, go to agents.md and add this project description to agents.md. Now I can actually remove project description, and then agents.md file will be used every time with the cursor agent, but it will also be used with OpenAI Codex and with some other agents you can find on agent.md website. So you can see Aider, Cursor, Orb, OpenCode, Gemini CLI, Factory. So those are quite popular agents and they all support agent.md file, which is good. So it is a way for you to store your project documentation in a unified format using this agent.md. Now, what do we do with backend and frontend? So one way is to take content from backend and frontend and just append it to main agents.md. The second way is actually slightly better because Cursor and most of the agents, they allow you to add nested agent.md, which means that agent.md file which is inside some folder. For example, we have API folder here, so we can add agent.md in the API folder, and we know that API is how we interact with the backend. So we can create new file, agents.md inside this API folder. We can now move content from backend file into this agents.md inside API folder. You see it here. And now we can remove backend file. And this agent.md will be applied all times when we tag any file from this API folder, when we modify any file from this API folder. So basically, whenever we work with API, it will read agents.md from this API folder. The same goes with frontend. So frontend we basically have everywhere kind of, because we have components folder. So it might be a good idea to just copy frontend description and go to main agents and add it here. So you see front-end architecture goes after project description. And again, we can remove this front-end MDC file. And you see now we created two agents files and removed all cursor rules. And now they work safely in both cursor and Codex and also a lot of other different agents. Now, if you are a fan of Claude Code, which is quite good agent made by Anthropic based on Claude models, at the moment of recording of this video, Claude Code doesn't support agents.md file and it requires its own claude.md file. So what can we do in Cursor if we want to switch between different agents? So first we can create a new file called claude.md. Now we can go to Cursor, we can go to Settings, Cursor Settings, Rules, Memories, and Commands. And here you need to turn this option on. Cursor now will include this Claude.md in context, like it does with agents.md. And now you can choose what you want to use as your base guidelines, agents.md or Claude.md, depending on what agent you prefer to use. When you have mix of cursor rules, agents.md, and Claude, you can go to rules, memories, commands in cursor settings. You can scroll down, and in project rules, you can see which rules you have. For example, in our case, we have agentsmd and claude.md always apply to any chat in the agent. And agentsmd inside the API folder will apply to subdirectory app API only, which is what we wanted when we created it inside this folder. This was all I wanted to show you about project rules and agentsmd file and claude.md file. If you find that something doesn't feel right at the moment, you might want to read official documentation, because these things, they change very quickly, and I assume in future Cursor might change something, or Claude Code might add support for agentsmd, or something else happen.